The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your host, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Yeah, we're all going to be here, Matt and Steve, myself, in studio. Producer John on CRN Live on YouTube. We got 2 hours and a little plus to fill. Got a big change in motorsports television to let you know about. We'll also fill you in on what happened during last week's IndyCar coverage. If you were watching it, you know what I'm talking about. We'll fill you in on the background of it. Formula E drivers getting a dream opportunity. Ferrari makes history, not really in the way that they would have preferred to make history. Got an NHRA driver who's walking away from a pretty scary incident. We'll detail that. RCR is putting a third Cup car out there a little bit more often this season. Tell you about that. And Red Bull has made a big decision. Was it the right one? We'll discuss all that and more coming up on this week's edition of CRN Getting the Green next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
We are back indeed. I'm Steve West, Matt Nicholson in studio, and producer John on CRN Live on YouTube. We appreciate all of his efforts. Oh, man. I can't wait for the rain today. I have never been so anticipatory of rain in my life.
Yeah, no kidding.
Need to get rid of some pollen. Let's just put it that way. You can tell it in our voices and with the clearing of throats and the coughing and all that kind of stuff. It's welcome to the South in the springtime, and I don't know what it is, but it just seems worse than ever. It's affecting me worse than ever. I don't know about you, so we wish you all the best here as we get things rolling. And as was the case last week, it was the same this week. We talked about the Craftsman Truck Series results on the show last week, so we move forward to last Saturday, the Xfinity Series race at Homestead, Miami. Came down to a green-white checkered finish to see if a Moonlighter, Kyle Larson, could go 2 for 2 on the weekend, and it appeared that the 2021 Cup champion was going to be exactly able to do that for most of the day. But, well, Sam Mayer, who had been running near the front all day and was to start second, decided to start behind Larson on the bottom lane as opposed to decide him on the front row. And, well, that kind of changed things because Mayer got under the gas quick on the restart and kind of got up under the bumper of Larson and got him a little out of shape. And welcome to the opening that Justin Allgaier needed, and he took it. Allgaier goes on to claim the win, gets the first $100,000 bonus in the dash for cash. Mayer second, Austin Hill third, Kyle Larson dropped to fourth. Sheldon Creed fifth, Jesse Love, Brandon Jones, Nick Sanchez, Daniel Dye, Carson Quapple made up the top 10. The 4 battling this weekend for that next $100,000 bonus, Allgaier, Mayer, Hill, and Creed. Remember, Larson's running for points in the Cup Series. He is not eligible, so first, second, fourth, and fifth. First, second, third, and fifth will be running for the Cup Series $100,000 in the dash for cash this weekend at the short track in Martinsville. Oh, foreshadowing. Allgaier takes over the lead. He's got 2 wins, 1 win each with Jesse Love and Austin Hill and Connor Zillage, so all of them right now in on the playoffs. Sam Mayer leads on points. Sheldon Creed next up. Sammy Smith, Ryan Sieg, Taylor Gray. Harrison and Jeb Burton. Then you got Brandon Jones. Jones is tied, but he holds the tiebreaker on Carson Quapple. And then you got Nick Sanchez 4 back when it comes to those in on points or just on the outside looking in. That brings us to race number 2 in China for Formula One. It was an exercise and things aren't necessarily what they initially seem. The top 10 at the finish, not the official top 10. So if you turned off the race right after it was over and you didn't follow up on it, you might be surprised to learn that out front, that was pretty much it. McLaren continued their 2024 winning ways. Oscar Piastri, this time getting the better of his teammate Lando Norris to get the win. The top 5 finishers officially, not as they crossed the finish line, all used one-stop strategy during the race. George Russell's Mercedes didn't have enough to keep up with the McLarens. He finished third. Trailed by Max Verstappen, and Esteban Ocon in the Haas F1 gets a top 5. Rest of the top 10, Kimi Antonelli, Alex Albon, Ollie Behrman in the other Haas, Lance Stroll, Carlos Sainz. What does that mean? Notice I didn't state either of the Ferraris. Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton. While they did cross the finish line on the track inside the top 10, officially they're not. We'll tell you why during the news. They were disqualified. We detailed it during Cross Flags, now available on CRN Live on YouTube. Yeah, one was too light. The other had a thin skin block. Again, details coming up. Plus, there was the third disqualification that we'll talk about as well. After the stewards made their rulings and came out with the top 10 officially, your points leader is now Lando Norris with 44. Max Verstappen is second with 36, 35 for George Russell. Oscar Piastri jumps up to 34, 22 for Kimi Antonelli. Then you got Alex Albon with 16. Esteban Ocon immediately jumps up there. He's got 10. Lance Stroll 10 as well. Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc have 9 and 8 points respectively, just barely hanging on inside the top 10. This all had a major effect on the team standings too. McLaren, as you would figure, is out to a quick early lead with 78, and Mercedes has 57. Third place is Red Bull with 36. Fourth place is Williams, and then Ferrari tied at 17. 78-17. There's a gap for you, especially for a team that was supposed to be fighting all of a sudden for a championship over there in the Scuderia. It's early. We'll see. Haas F1 got on the mat. They scored 14 points in China, 10 for Aston Martin. Sauber's got 6. Racing Bulls has 3. So only 2 races in. We've only got one team shut out on the season. That's Alpine.
Which is not a surprise.
It is, but it's not. I think I would have figured that there would have been more teams still with a goose egg.
I'm really not surprised.
It's kind of a weird year. It's already shaping up to be a weird year. On the track, next up was the NHRA. They ran the Arizona Nationals. Top Fuel Finals, Doug Kalita paired off against Sean Langdon. Langdon had a great advantage off the light, turned it into a win at the other end. 3.724 ET, 330.39 miles per hour in the process. That's his 20th career win. Congratulations. Paul Lee made it to the Funny Car Finals. Paul Lee. When was the last time we talked about that name?
Been a while.
Yeah. Takes on Austin Prock. Lee, a stellar reaction time. He used it to launch himself onto the win. 4.030 ET, 313.22 miles per hour, you say. Sounds kind of pedestrian for Funny Car, considering we see them in the 330 range quite often. Well, Prock hazed his tires and had to feather the throttle. So Lee's win, his first career Funny Car event win. Good for him. Greg Anderson versus Dallas Glenn in the Pro Stock Car Finals. Glenn was on the line and was beginning to rev up when suddenly the car jumped across the line even before the lights were activated. Is that a situation where you've got a what's the
Clutch.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I was thinking there was like a lockup.
Clutch.
Okay, so the clutch just gave.
No, the clutches don't give. The clutch only gives when you crack your foot off the clutch pedal.
So he made a mistake. All right.
Yep.
So yeah, he didn't even have to make a run, Anderson, but he did. Sort of. He actually launched off the line early himself. He red lighted, coasted across the line with a time well over a minute. Didn't matter. He was the winner off the bat because again, Dallas Glenn jumped at the start. So your points run down. Sean Langdon has an early 40-point lead over defending champion Antron Brown in Top Fuel. Doug Kalitis 58 back. Jasmine Salinas 74 out, and Brittany Force 101 down. Paul Lee with the win takes over the Funny Car lead by 2 over Jack Beckman. Bob Tasca the third, 8 down. 12 out Chad Green. Defending champion Austin Prock is 24 behind. Man, Funny Car's tight. And then you got the Pro Stock Car. Greg Anderson's 7-point lead, 99 up on Corey Reed. Matt Hartford already 111 down, and Eric Latino 5th place, already 119 down after only 2 events. What a switch. IndyCar in the Cup Series got things rolling right about the same time last Sunday afternoon. IndyCar got things done sooner, so we'll start there. And proving that while leading a lot of laps is good, without leading the last lap, how much does it matter?
Doesn't matter if you don't lead at last lap.
There you go. As they say, second place is first loser. Pato Award led 51 laps, but Alex Palou, who led 13 himself, was the guy leading the final lap. He gets the win, and Award is given a second place finish. Christian Lundgaard third, trailed by Colton Herta, Felix Rosenquist, Will Power, Marcus Armstrong, Kyle Kirkwood, Alexander Rossi, and Scott Dixon. So here's the situation. Palou is out to a quick 102 to 63 point lead on Award in the standings. Scott Dixon's got 61, 60 for Christian Lundgaard. Felix Rosenquist 56, 54 for Kyle Kirkwood, 53 for Joseph Newgarden. Colton Herta's got 47, Alexander Rossi's got 43, and just inside the top 10, having a bad day out at Thermal Club. Kind of like Fox. Foreshadowing. Scott McLaughlin, he's got 41. Honda's got an early 182 to 144 point lead over Chevrolet in the manufacturer's points. And in Rookie of the Year, Robert Schwartzman's got 18. It's 12 for Jacob Abel, and Lewis Foster has 11. All of this, obviously, in the very early goings. I mean, heck, Thermal Club was IndyCar's second race of the year.
Yep.
Kyle Larson, he could still go 2 for 3 on the weekend. Needed a bit of an assist from a teammate down at Homestead, Miami in order to do it. Alex Bowen was leading from the pole, but with 6 laps to go in the afternoon, he, ran his car into the outside wall. Kyle Larson took advantage and got the win. Marked his 30th win of his career so far. And you want to think about some of the guys that he has beaten as far as getting to 30 wins in your NASCAR career. There's a whole lot of NASCAR Hall of Famers in there and soon to be NASCAR Hall of Famers, like Kyle Busch and Joey Logano and Mark Martin and Dale Jarrett. Kyle Larson's got 30 wins faster than they did. surefire Hall of Famer? Kyle Larson?
If he's not first ballot, I'll be surprised.
Okay. Alex Bowman said afterward with the second place finish in hand, quote, I guess to choke that one away. Understatement. Bubba Wallace came home third. Chase Briscoe fourth. Denny Hamlin fifth. Rest of your top 10, Chris Buescher, A.J. Allmendinger, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Preece, who has really seemed to come alive over in that RFK racing car.
He's flying the flag for him right now.
Yeah, no doubt. Justin Haley rounds out the top 10. Christopher Bell, 3 wins, single wins now for for William Byron, Kyle Larson, and Josh Berry. Those are your 4 that are in the playoffs at this time. In on points, Alex Bowman, Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Chase Briscoe, Ross Chastain, and rounding them out, Michael McDowell and John Hunter Nemechek. Ryan Preece and Kyle Busch are tied actually with Nemechek on points, but John Hunter holds the tiebreaker. Who would have thought John Hunter Nemechek holds a tiebreaker over Kyle Busch?
Times change. Times change.
All right. For this weekend, for the 3rd weekend in a row, began Friday night. Craftsman Truck Series running the Boys and Girls Club of the Blue Ridge 200 at Martinsville Speedway. Matt, what's the overview on this?
Well, even though I was locked in on the Sweet 16 last night and did not watch but collectively 5 laps of the race.
Was it the most important 5 laps?
Yeah, it was the most important 5 laps.
That's what's important, right?
It was someone getting into victory lane that has not been in a Truck Series victory lane in 4,127 days.
That's a little while.
That would be Daniel Hemrick finally getting through.
Congratulations to him.
And see what happens when you pass up a ride, Corey LaJoy, that you had the seat and you gave it up because you wanted to race on Sunday instead of Friday. See what happens?
Yeah.
You got him winning, Tyler Ankrum second, Jake Garcia third, Chandler Smith fourth, Ben Rhodes fifth, Corey Heim sixth, Andres Perez de Lara seventh, Rajah Caruth eighth, Stuart Friesen ninth, and Lawless Allen rounding out the top 10.
It is kind of interesting to note. You think about all the changes that truck has gone through. I mean, driver obviously changed. Crew chief has changed. From what I understand, the vast majority of the crew has changed.
The entire crew changed.
But yet, that truck just keeps on rolling.
And there was something that I seen, an interesting deal that I didn't realize was going on last night. In one of the Rayom trucks, there was a kid by the name of Alan Waller, that started the race. He is a stage 4 cancer survivor.
Whoa. Good on him.
Good for him for starting it. Good for him for making that attempt.
And good for him for overcoming stage 4 cancer. Stage 4.
That as well.
Whoa.
That as well. But here's what I have to say about this. If you're going to start it, give every attempt you can to finish it. He had to get out of the truck, and Josh Rayom got in the truck.
Yeah. How far did he go?
I think it was like halfway in the race. Talked about getting too hot.
That's not too bad.
You get a tip of the cap for starting it, for sure.
110%.
And going for it.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to get another start at North Wilkesboro coming up.
We'll keep an eye on him. Definitely. Love it. It's a great story. All right, so in the end, Corey Heim's 2 wins leads the way. Daniel Hemrick's win from last night has him in the playoffs at this time. Those who are in on points are Ty Majeski, Chandler Smith, Stuart Friesen, Tyler Ankrum, Grant Enfinger, Lane Riggs, Jake Garcia, and Ben Rhodes. Ben Rhodes with a very slim 1-point lead over Caden Honeycutt for that final spot. Later today, Saturday, as we air live, Xfinity Series going to be getting the Marine Corps 250 rolling. Who knew the Marine Corps was doing a title sponsorship of an Xfinity Series race? Good on them. It'll air on the CW, where available, and MRN Radio starting at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central Time. Out on the track, again, I have to put it this way because TV-wise, it ain't going to be the same. On the track, next up is the NHRA getting things rolling in the Lucas Oil Winter Nationals on In-N-Out Burger Dragway at Southern California. Final start at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central Time. If you want to watch it on TV, you're going to have to wait until after Cup Series coverage on Fox Sports 1, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central Time, because for reasons I'm not 100% sure I can fathom other than the fact that the UFL starts this weekend.
They started yesterday.
Yeah, which means that they've got a game, I think, on Sunday, but I'm not 100% certain that Fox is carrying it. I have no idea what
they're
Fox is showing tomorrow afternoon.
They're carrying one, but I can't remember if it was the one.
Either way,
They started yesterday.
I know. They're doing a 3-day weekend. They're doing games Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which include the 3-time defending champion Birmingham Stallions. They will wrap up the weekend tomorrow evening on ESPN against DC.
Okay, they've got a game today at 3.
Yeah. Tomorrow?
That's what I'm looking for.
Well, he's looking for it. Cup Series coverage going to be on Fox Sports 1 again. Despite not having an IndyCar race, it's not going to be on Fox for whatever reason that Matt's still trying to find out. Cookout 400 will get rolling on Fox Sports 1 and MRN Radio, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. That means Formula 1, Formula E, and IndyCar are all off this week.
Come on. Where are you?
Still unsure what the heck Fox is airing, as opposed to the Cup Series. And what have we been saying on the show for the longest time? That NASCAR, specifically the Cup Series, is the king of motorsports television here in the United States of America.
Here we go.
But yet, still putting it over on Fox Sports 1? Yeah. You look confused.
They have no
live sports.
No excuse for this to not be on Fox tomorrow. Both games tomorrow are on ESPN. Both of them.
I don't know what they're doing.
I
don't. I don't get it. If I'm NASCAR, I'm ticked at how we're being treated on television right now. And we'll back it up coming up a little bit during IndyCar news specifically. But when we come back, first things first, soapbox, tee box, pick your choose. Red Bull made a decision. Was it the right one? I tend to think not. We'll detail the decision coming up next, right here on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Camp out, ladies and gentlemen. We're probably going to be here for a bit on this one.
Just for record, I'm not high on medication this morning. Even though it may sound like I'm going to be here shortly.
Yeah, even though we might want to be. Let's try and take this story in chronological order, okay? Last weekend, Red Bull came out of China thinking about their talented but, underperforming rookie Liam Lawson. Now, remember, last season, Max Verstappen significantly outperformed his teammate Sergio Perez, so Perez was let go at the end of the year, right? In favor of Lawson. He was chosen to take over that seat that Sergio Perez had over Racing Bull's veteran Yuki Tsunoda. Well, Verstappen is once again pulling the weight for Red Bull so far. Again, 2 races in. Team boss Christian Horner was asked about it after the race. He said this, quote, "Look, I think everything is purely speculative at the moment. Quote, we just finished this race. We're going to take away the info, have a good look at it. I think Liam still has potential. We're just not realizing it at the moment. I think the problem for him is, he's had a couple of really tough weekends. He's got all the media on his back. The pressure just naturally grows in this business. And I feel sorry for him that you can see that it's very tough on him at this moment." Now, we, of course, addressed these rumors on a previous edition of the show, last week's edition of this show. We also talked about it a little bit on Crossed Flags this week. Again, available live right now on CRN Live on YouTube. We talked about how Helmut Marko probably needed to pay more attention to things going on in the business side of Red Bull and let Christian Horner do his job, right? That was what you said.
Yep.
I mean, Helmut Marko's official duties at Red Bull is advisor to the motorsports team. Is that what I'm grabbing? Or something to that effect? I mean, he's not the team boss. I get it. Red Bull likes to win. That's obvious. You get guys like Sebastian Vettel, who won 4 in a row, and they won 4 Constructors' Cup titles with him. Then you turn around and you look at the heater that Max Verstappen's on, having won 4 titles of his own and 3 Constructors' Cup titles during that time, I think. Mm-hmm. And of course, yeah.
Senior advisor.
Senior advisor. Okay.
Since 1990.
Okay. This is more an emeritus kind of a thing now. I mean, truth be told.
Pretty much.
He's figurehead. He's like King Charles. I mean, yeah, you're king, but you don't really have any power over there, Charles. So, suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah.
But Helmut Marko goes over there, and apparently Christian Horner starts feeling some pressure. So this week they went ahead and made the switch. Indeed, they have flipped Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson. Let's deal with the details first, okay? So Liam Lawson goes from Red Bull to Racing Bulls, Yuki Tsunoda Racing Bulls up to Red Bull. This will take effect officially in Japan. The next race. Not obviously this weekend, but next weekend. And apparently Red Bull officials are trying to make themselves feel better about doing this after only 2 races because they called it a, quote, purely sporting decision, unquote. They made this move despite their 4-time defending champion Max Verstappen saying himself that this 2025 Red Bull racer, which is internally coded as the RB21, is a long way off race-winning pace. And here's the thing. I get it. You talk about stumbling out of the gate, it happens. Lawson began his overly short career at Red Bull with a DNF in Australia and then qualified last for both the sprint and the actual Grand Prix in China. And apparently it left Christian Horner, again, the Red Bull boss, to try and smooth things out. He said this, quote, "It has been difficult to see Liam struggle with the RB21 the first 2 races. As a result, we have collectively taken the decision to make an early switch. We came into the 2025 season with 2 ambitions: retain the World Drivers' Championship and to reclaim the World Constructors' title, and this is a purely sporting decision. Mm-hmm. We acknowledge there's a lot of work to be done on the RB21. Yuki's experience will prove highly beneficial in helping develop the current car. We welcome him to the team, and we're looking forward to seeing him behind the wheel of the RB21. ESPN is also reporting sources told them Honda, long a partner with Tsunoda, has been working to get the Japanese driver into said Red Bull car. From there, you get the fallout. And it's not just me. I'm still warming up the grip on the driver. It was noted that there was a post criticizing this move by Red Bull on Instagram by former F1 driver Guido van der Garde. You might remember that name, you might not. The funny thing is this post criticizing the move was actually liked by Lawson's now former teammate Max Verstappen. Van der Garde posted, quote, "Yes, you got to perform. Yes, the pressure is insane, but in my opinion, this comes closer to bullying or a panic move than a actual high athlete achievement."
Ladies and gentlemen, there is your key phrase right there.
Yep, comes closer to bullying or a panic move.
I was thinking the latter more than the former.
Sure. Van der Garde's post continued, quote, "They made a decision, fully aware, gave Liam 2 races only to crush his spirit. Don't forget the dedication, hard work, and success Liam has put into his career so far to achieve to get to the level where he is now. Yes, he underperformed the first 2 races, but if anyone's aware of that, it is himself." The Dutch media in Verstappen's homeland are also reporting that the champion does not like the move. And as it turned out, Helmut Marko himself, no, not Christian Horner, Helmut Marko, you know, that senior advisor since 1990, said that he knows Max Verstappen's not happy with this move.
Oh.
Think about that. Let that sink in for a couple of moments.
Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days at Milton Keynes.
I don't have the entire list. I don't. But in thinking about some of the names that have driven for Red Bull and have been treated about the same way as Liam Lawson, as much as I would love to have a top-level ride, if Red Bull did that on my door, I think now I'd think twice about accepting their offer. Because how much support am I actually going to get? Liam Lawson's out after 2 races.
Yes.
A couple of years ago, you might remember they brought on, now again, Formula E driver Nick DeVries from Formula E to take over one of the seats at what we now call Racing Bulls. How long did he get on this admitted secondary operation to Red Bull? Half a season. Just gone. Remember the name Scott Speed? Highly heralded American guy. Early 2000, about what, 20 years ago now, give or take?
Something like that, yeah.
And all the hype about him coming in and Red Bull jumping up with him. And how long did he get in that car before he was ousted from that car in favor of a guy who turned around and made that a 4-time Constructors' Cup winning team with 4 straight drivers' titles and Sebastian Vettel? And those are just 3. Red Bull goes through drivers like a hot knife through butter. And if you don't perform now, you're gone. We just started the 2025 baseball season. LA Dodgers are 4 games in because they played 2 in Japan. Everybody else is about 2 games in. And we're already, think about this, 2 games into a 162-game schedule, and we're already seeing people going out there and saying, hey, this particular free agent who cost God only knows how many millions of dollars a year, was it worth it? 2 games? 4 games tops? Does that really tell you how good that player is going to perform? Does 2 races honestly tell you how good a driver is going to perform? By that acknowledgement, Chase Briscoe should already be out of the number 19 car at Joe Gibbs Racing. Think about how he began the year. Yes, he finished with the top 5 in the Daytona 500 and then stumbled at Atlanta and stumbled at Coda. Didn't have a great day at Phoenix. Finally, last week at Homestead Miami, gets another top 5. But if you eliminate the Homestead Miami and only take the races from Daytona to Atlanta to Coda to Phoenix and then Vegas, you'd look at Chase Briscoe and go, why the heck did we sign you? Maybe we should go get somebody else. We'll send you back down to the Xfinity Series. We'll pull one of our Xfinity Series normal regular drivers up.
That's it.
That's the kind of reaction we're talking about. You gave the kid 2 races.
113 total laps.
That's not enough. And you yourself, Christian Horner, admit the car's not up to snuff.
But yet we're blaming the driver.
Yep.
Makes no sense. None.
Yeah.
You pull the kid up. Now, I could this is the only thing that I could see. You bring the kid up because he had a handful of races last year. You're thinking, oh, he could be all right off the bat. Not when it's 2 completely different race cars.
Sure. Yeah, last year's car is different from this year's car, and everybody else's car has changed as well, and some of them have improved quite nicely.
You're admitting your 4-time champion driver that has flown the number 1 for all these years is admitting the car is not where it needs to be, but yet we're blaming the driver.
Yep.
The team principal, or what I'm beginning to lean up and think of as the team drama queen, one of the team drama queens. Well, considering he's married to a Spice Girl, could you expect anything less?
Then there's that.
Is admitting that the car's not where it needs to be. But we're blaming the driver.
Yep.
Red Bull, Vandergaard said it, the 2 words, perfect.
Panic.
You
move.
are in panic mode.
This was a pure panic move.
Because you're getting your rectal cavities driven into your throat by McLaren right now.
And if this report from ESPN is to believe that Honda kind of strong-armed you, why are you letting Honda strong-arm you when they're in their final year of their deal with you? You're moving to Ford next year. Now, technically, yes, the engine that'll be in the compartment is still the Honda engine. It'll just be rebadged. But Honda is a lame duck with Red Bull. They don't have that kind of say, or shouldn't, but yet you allowed it to happen? What?
The problem is this right here. Honda, the Japan Grand Prix is lurking, and you have a Japanese driver.
Yeah. But yet,
I hate to say it that way, but
yet
it's
Red Bull buckled.
I hate to say it that way, but truth.
Red Bull buckled. And on top of that, they're going to run a special paint scheme coming up at the Japanese Grand Prix. I don't have a picture of it, but it's basically all the stuff that was blue on the Red Bulls becomes white. They're running that special paint scheme to honor their last year with Honda at the Japanese Grand Prix. Okay, great. You guys have had a great partnership.
Yippee, good for you.
But again, this is their last year with you. They're gone. You're going to Ford next year. Yuki Tsunoda's your driver, not Honda's. Liam Lawson's your driver, not Honda's. Max Verstappen the same way. They're all your drivers.
To where I'm probably
all four of them.
To where I'm probably sitting here, I can envision people like Edsel Ford, Jim Farley, and Mark Rushbrook sitting in a room going, "Oh, what are we doing?"
Yeah, we just got into the biggest drama in the entirety of F1. I get it. Again, F1, Red Bull's got a great history in F1. But if I am a top-level driver and Red Bull comes knocking on my door, after this, I got to give that a heck of a lot more thought.
I'm looking like that GIF and that meme online to where you got Homer Simpson going back into the bushes.
Mm-hmm.
That's me.
Yeah. I might not want this ride.
I would almost rather drive for Alpine than drive for Red Bull.
Yeah.
With this case right here.
What kind of support am I going to get? Doesn't matter how heralded as a rookie I am. Think about Liam Lawson. This kid was touted as one of the next big things. 2 races. 2. And he's just the latest to go through the cheese grater that is Red Bull.
Honestly, in this scenario, I hope at Japan that Lawson scores points and Tsunoda doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been the biggest Red Bull rooter, but I'll be real honest with you, this does not make me want to root for them. This is not the way to support a driver.
No.
And then there's Ferrari. They made history in a bad way, too. That's next.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
All right, let's get to another thing that we talked about on Cross Flags. Again, available live on CRN Live on YouTube right now. Well, it's not live, it's pre-recorded. I noted during the rundown that we detailed Ferrari's double disqualification. Whew, 2 disqualifications, the same race. Ouch. Ferrari officials have said they're not going to appeal the rulings. They accepted the full blame for them, calling them the mistakes on their part. In other words, these are mistakes that do not belong to either driver, Lewis Hamilton or Charles Leclerc. Leclerc and Hamilton crossed the finish line at the Chinese Grand Prix 5th and 6th, respectively. Then officials gave a DQ to the Alpine of Pierre Gasly, who was 11th when the checkered flags were shown to the field. Hours later, after all the cars went through post-race inspection, the trio ended up being relegated to Charles Leclerc in 18th, Lewis Hamilton in 19th, and Pierre Gasly in 20th, because that was the order that they finished. Leclerc 5th, Hamilton 6th, Gasly 11th. Now, think about this for a second. Formula One is celebrating their 75th anniversary this year. And Ferrari has raced at least one race in every single one of those years. So in 75 years, this is the first time that Ferrari has ever suffered a double disqualification. Not the kind of history you wanted to make, right? A statement from Ferrari said this, quote, following the FIA post-race scrutineering, their words, not mine, both our cars were found not to conform to regulations for different reasons. Car 16, Charles Leclerc's car, was found to be underweight by 1 kilogram. That's about 2.2 pounds, by the way. And the 44's rearward skid wear was found to be 0.5 millimeter below the limit. Okay. Now, again, we talked about this on Cross Flag, so if you watched that, you kind of understand this is a repeat. This is where I wanted to revisit this on this show, because usually I'm going to try and separate the podcast out, but this statement tries to shed more light on what I'm going to say might have happened, because I'm not so certain I buy this. As for Charles Leclerc, the statement says, quote, Charles was on a one-stop strategy today. This meant his tire wear was very high, causing the car to be underweight. Let's stop there for a moment. When they weighed the car post-race, if you haven't watched Cross Flags, this will be new to you. When they weighed the car post-race, it was dead on the weight limit, which is 800 kilograms. Then they drained the fuel out, which is apparently something F1 does. Is this something NASCAR does? Drain the fuel out? Okay.
Nope.
So F1 drains the fuel out of the car, and that's what causes it to be 2.2 pounds, give or take, below the weight limit.
That is called not allowing for burn-off.
Yeah. His tire wear was very high?
Tire wear ain't got a... a tire wear ain't got a you fill in the blank with whatever imaginary word you want to use thing to do with it.
What?
You don't lose 2 pounds of tire wear.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm just going to ask this. I don't even know whether you know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. From a brand new sticker tire to a well-worn, let's just say, set of tires after a run, what's the difference in weight?
It would depend on which compound you had on. First off.
All right. It's one-stop strategy. Let's say probably...
I'm going to say probably the hard compound.
Probably hard.
Hard compounds wear very little.
Okay.
That is... that is what you call a Charlie Yankee Alpha move.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's presume for a moment that tire wear wasn't as bad a situation and they went medium compound. We know they didn't do the soft compound. I mean, I'm sorry, those soft compounds are not going to last that long.
You're still not going to lose 2 pounds of weight.
At most, you might lose 1 pound.
If that.
So a half a kilogram?
Half. If even half. This is, if they weigh the car with the fuel minus the driver.
Sure.
You weigh the car with the fuel, it's dead on the number.
Yeah. And then you know they're going to drain the fuel. You know you're in trouble.
You drain the fuel and it goes under. Okay. That is a natural reduction of weight. Because the weight of fuel is approximately about, depending on per gallon, is approximately about 5 to 6 pounds a gallon.
Yeah.
Give or take.
Something like that.
Okay. When you set cars up and you weigh cars, you have a tolerance to allow for fuel burn off. So when fuel burns off and you know you're at X amount of gallons at the end of a race, your car has to be on the plus side of that weight to allow for that burn off. Because in racing in late models, we had a 1 pound per lap burn off. So if I run a 50 lap race and my car, the minimum weight at the end of the race is supposed to be 2,350, I know I had to have my car scaled out with me in the car at 24. I always went +2.
It's a good call.
I always went +2.
Yeah. Margin of error.
Exactly. The margin of error, because all scales has got that fraction of a margin of error. I always gave myself a +2 tolerance. If I was at 23, if my car was supposed to weigh 2,350 with me in it, after the race, fuel load on, with a 1 pound per lap burn off tolerance, minimum weight 2,350. I always had my car to be at a minimum 2,402. Now, that's not accounting for dirt you would pick up that would stick to the car, because that was an automatic add of weight.
Yeah.
You had to play it. You had to play your card just like, excuse me, you had to play your card just like you had a dry track, no dirt to be picked up. You're going to be on a blocked over slick surface, just like you're racing asphalt. You had to use that philosophy to allow to it, because you didn't know what your conditions were going to be on the track at any given week. It may be heavy, hammered down, not pick your foot up off the throttle, and then it may be the next week you may be in a pedal fest like a funny car going down a track.
And a lot of that has to do with the conditions of the track that particular week.
It has to deal with the track. It has to deal with track conditions, let alone it has to deal with the weather conditions as well.
Sure. Yeah.
This was nothing but a simple setup screw up.
Yeah.
Simply put.
So that's Charles Leclerc's side of things. As they said in their statement, quote, with regard to Lewis's skid wear, we misjudged the consumption by a small margin. There's no intention to gain any advantage. We will learn what happened today and make sure that we don't make the same mistakes again. Clearly, it's not the way we wanted to end our Chinese Grand Prix weekend, neither for ourselves nor for our fans. So the skid plate that they're talking about on the rear is, again, something that is uniform across all Formula One cars, the 10 teams right now, because they want to make sure that one team isn't gaining an aero advantage by doing something on the underneath of the car. And as we talked about, this has got to be some situation of the way that Lewis was running over some of the curbing up there that was causing those sparks that you will see from time to time coming out of the back end of a car. That's just that skid plate bumping the asphalt effectively. And they didn't account for it.
That is again setup. Because if you're running a softer suspension to keep yourself within the ride height tolerances, but that softer suspension is allowing your car to travel more, you got to allow for something. But a 0.5 millimeter is what? That?
It's not that much. I agree.
That? What is that going to do for a car that's constantly traveling whatever contours the track that they're on? God, I had to think of that analogy very quick, and I can't think straight today. You're for that? If you're going to bust somebody for that much wear, that means their car has to be that much higher. I cannot understand why these tolerances like this are so stinking nitpicked over. You got to have a plus or a minus allowance for wear, because wear is going to happen. Mm-hmm. You got to have that tolerance.
But in the end, I mean, I get it. A rule is a rule. F1 is playing it really strict, but a rule is a rule. Okay, that's the way that it comes across in there. In effect, what you have said is that Ferrari, I guess I should put it this way, Ferrari's initial statement that said this is our fault and we don't lay the blame at the drivers in any way, shape, or form, you agree with that?
That's not a driver's fault.
Yeah. This is set up by the team on either Leclerc's car for not making sure that they accounted for the fuel burn off, or in Lewis Hamilton's situation, making sure they set up the car to where it would not exceed the wear that Formula One allows.
It's clearly not it's clearly not the driver's fault. That's a setup problem, and a not allowing for the proper tolerances at the end of a run. That's not on the man holding the wheel. That's on the person on the radio on the other side, engineers.
Yeah, I mean,
crew chiefs.
And I don't know this because, I mean, Formula One's obviously a little bit different. You know, there are impound races within NASCAR also, but they do allow some work to be done under certain situations. Shouldn't it be on the team, for example, to note Lewis Hamilton's racing line during, for example, qualifying, practice, and the sprints? I mean, that's a pretty wide range of things here. We're talking 3 practice sessions, a qualifying session, and a sprint race.
I don't think it's got nothing to do with the line.
Well, but listen, hear me out. The way that Lewis Hamilton's racing, the line that he's racing on, and everything that he's doing, could that have been something of a clue to the team of, hey, listen, we might get to the point where we experience a little bit too much wear. Maybe we need to adjust the settings or adjust the suspension, how this car is set up, so that we don't have too much wear on that skid plate?
That would be constituting something changing with that would be a suspension change to make the suspension stiffer, so that way the car doesn't travel as much. But if the car gets too stiff, it's like riding.
Riding the buckboard, I get it.
No, it'd be like riding the Ninja Cyclone and the Scream Machine 10 times back to back to back over Six Flags. The roughest 3 roller coasters in the world, if you ask me.
Yeah.
That's what it would be like. But that is nothing but an engineering error. Okay. Nothing but an engineering error.
So there's not really much that the team could have done before the Chinese Grand Prix to do something that would have mitigated this.
Yeah, because it ain't got. The reason I said it doesn't have nothing to do with the line, because everybody else is taking almost almost an identical line, depending on how you do your setup for your passes in each respective part of the track.
Sure.
Everybody's on the same thing. One has wear, but the other 19 doesn't. That is a setup in engineering error.
Okay. All right. And that's kind of where I wanted to make sure that I got it clarified. Speaking of penalties, rookie Jack Doohan's got a couple, and we'll talk about that. No, he wasn't disqualified. So what do the penalties mean? Stick around. We'll talk about that. And we'll talk about construction going on over at the Hungaroring. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. How's the progress? We'll update you. Plus, EA Sports is talking about their F1 25 video game. We'll even show you the cover when we come back and kick off the second half.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. 4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. Hour number 2 getting underway here on the show. And wow, we really haven't left Formula One yet, but it's a lot to talk about. Let's see if we can run through these next stories and move on here. We were talking penalties for Ferrari at the end of hour 1 and begin hour 2 talking about other penalties. Rookie Jack Doohan, who has yet to score a championship point in his young career in F1. Granted, it's only 2 races old, but according to Red Bull, this might mean that he should be gone. He's already racking up F1 super license penalty points. Oops. He got 2 last Sunday when he forced the Red Bull entry of fellow rookie Isaac Hadjar off the track trying to retake a position. And this was added to the 2 he accrued for causing a collision during Saturday's sprint race when he got into the Sauber of rookie Gabriel Bortoleto. So he's 2 races into his F1 career. He's already got 4 penalty points. 12 in a 12-month period means you sit out a race.
Chill out, homie.
Settle down a little bit there, Jack, man. Come on. Things rolling at a brisk pace in the Hungaroring course. This is, of course, the host of the Hungarian Grand Prix. We talked about this a few weeks ago here on the show, and the fact that work began July of last year. And what they're trying to do is, they're trying to make sure that they keep the race within F1 standards, FIA standards. You got to have a Class 1 facility, blah, 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 blah. So right after the race last July happened, participants cleared out. They started work. Plans include modernizing the paddock, the main building, refurbishing the main grandstand, right? At this time, the race surface is not something that the workers have to worry about. They're going to have to clean it up after it's over, but they're not going to have to repave it or anything. Track officials gave an update early this week, said things were progressing at least on schedule and in many cases ahead of schedule. So they're already planning on putting tickets for the 2025 race on sale. They say soon. They have not given a date. Amongst the things they say they've already accomplished, the roof over the main grandstand, they say, is done. They add that the ground floor of the paddock building is complete too. Still to be done, they have to install the grandstand seating. That'd be good. And they need to finish the basement and the first floor paddock work. But officials insist that this facility will be ready to race, despite the fact that the work goes on. Now, if you're on CRN Live on YouTube, you can see, for example, the roof work over the main grandstand is indeed done, except for maybe some finishing work. And this is, I don't know how old these pictures are, so that indeed may be done. Like, for example, that end cap right there, it's probably covered up. So now you start working on the seating, and then the top right picture over there is the one where they're dealing with the paddock work and trying to get the flooring and all the other finishing work done. So, yeah, they look to be well on schedule. So congratulations to them. It's always nice to hear construction is at least on, if not ahead of schedule. We like to hear that.
Yeah.
And then there's this. Despite the growing pains, 7-time champion Lewis Hamilton joining Scuderia Ferrari this season, it did not deter EA Sports from putting Hamilton in full Ferrari fire suit on the cover of their upcoming F1 25 video game, which, as you may note if you're watching on CRN Live on YouTube, is already up for pre-order. I don't think it'll be available until like July. But yeah, he's going to be gracing the F1 video game solo. This is a first. It's not to say he hasn't been on the cover before. He has. It's been a regular on it since 2015, but he was actually usually joined on the cover by somebody, at least one other driver. Now the 7-time champion gets it all to himself. His move to the historic team was by far the biggest news of 2024, most say, and EA Sports said, yeah, we just wanted to take advantage of that, so we decided to put him on that cover all by himself. It's a good-looking cover. I've yet to play this game. Have you played any of the F1 EA Sports games?
Only F1 stuff I've driven is on iRacing.
Okay. At some point in time, and I say this at some point in time, it's a money situation, obviously. I do want to get a PlayStation 5. I want to get the most recent one. I've been a PlayStation guy ever since. Maybe your Xbox, and you can get it on Xbox if you want.
Yeah.
But I just happen to have been a PlayStation guy for a long time.
I'm the same way.
One of these days, I want to get the new one. And this, I'm interested. I would love to try out the F1 video game just to see. Curiosity, mainly.
Just wait till you drive something iRacing related. You'll never get a console game again.
Well,
seriously.
I've always been a console kind of guy. You know, it's the only place I can run Gran Turismo. So, you know, it's just personal preference. Let's switch, something like that. Switch over to the NHRA. Straight line guys had a bit of a scary situation, specifically for Ron Capps last weekend in Arizona. Capps was in the first round of funny car eliminations when his Napa Chevy Camaro suffered a major engine detonation, prompted the loss of control of the ride, crossed over the center line, slammed into the retaining wall before finally stopping. Capps was alert. He was able to get himself out of the car, which he later termed a, quote, convertible, unquote. Was checked out by NHRA medical team personnel on site, but quickly released. In the interview afterward, his sense of humor showed through. He noted that he just needed to get back to full control of his nerves, said that he remembered what happened to John Force last year in Richmond and how his incident could have been much worse than it was. This is just a still shot of it, so you understand, if you're looking on CRN Live on YouTube, you understand what we mean when we say he turned it into a convertible. That engine blew that bodywork apart.
Blower failure.
And this is, again, not necessarily the same, but very similar to kind of the situation that caused the problem that caused John Force to be hospitalized last year.
There's a big difference, though. You got to look real carefully at that picture behind the rear tire. That chute deployed.
Yeah. And John Force's
did
not. Speaking of John Force, he's been in the news here a lot lately, his team, mostly because of a couple of bad things. They lost the president. Obviously, we talked about that, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, talked about the loss of his longtime crew chief who retired, granted, about a decade ago, but still, that's a personal situation, and that's not good. Now he's finally got some good news. They got some added sponsorship. Who couldn't use more sponsorship? But considering who John's daughter Courtney's married to, probably actually shouldn't be such a big surprise. Graham Rahal Performance, or GRP, as you can see on the nose of the Brittany Force Top Fuel ride on CRN Live on YouTube, is now a sponsor of the team. And they're actually going to be a primary sponsor on both Force's Top Fuel ride and Jack Beckman's Funny Car ride in the upcoming 4-Wide Nationals in Vegas. So, yeah, good news there. I'm not sure what Graham Rahal Performance is going to bring to the team other than a sponsorship, but it could be interesting to find out. This might be GRP kind of stretching out their legs a little bit here.
Yeah, because he does sports car performance stuff. He's in motorcycles as well, and expanding into this.
And
yeah,
you know, and I'm going to say this, and I only say this because I know that, well, we're all mortal and Father Time beats us all. At some point in time, John Force has to have in place, and I'm sure he already does, but he has to have in place the succession, right? I mean, John Force is what, 76? I think
so, yeah. I think.
At some point in time, the next generation takes over. And that's where I kind of get the funny feeling his daughters are going to come in, and probably Graham Rahal to a certain extent are going to be all involved in the continuation of the running of John Force racing.
It's going to all end up tying up to where Rahal, Lanigan, and Force will all be tied together.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because when Bobby decides to hang it up and retire, Graham will take over, and it'll all be tied into one.
Yeah, so you'll have the Rahals and the Forces, and we'll see what David Letterman does.
And since on the subject of Brittany Force, yesterday in the Top Fuel All-Star call-out at Pomona, that car officially set the fastest 1/8 mile speed in Top Fuel history at 301.6 during round one of the Top Fuel call-out.
You want to talk about... say what you want about her ability to finish off events. When it comes to putting out a show in a single run, if I need somebody to do something in just a single run, a random single run, I'm sorry, Brittany Force is my choice.
Yeah.
She's got more records when it comes to things like that than I think anybody else. It's ridiculous. We got happier news from Firebird Motorsports Park 2 in that for the third year in a row, they not only saw a Sunday sellout, but a Saturday sellout. This is the track's 40th season in all. Both weekend days saw overflowed crowds packing in to check out all the action. And the reason why this is really mentioned more than just as a passing note, you got to remember, this was a facility was thought to be on the chopping block. We were talking about closing this thing down just a couple of years ago. Road construction may be going through the property, but officials were able to work around it with the state of Arizona and track officials, and it kept the facility open, and now they got a long-term deal to host the NHRA. and they've begun investing in refurbishing the facility. That began with a new track surface, and it will continue. Good stuff.
Every time you hear something to be said about Firebird Motorsports Park, you can't help but think but hear Dave McClellan's voice saying it on ESPN. The old days.
Yeah. Miss that voice.
Yeah, no kidding.
Turning to the Cup Series here, Kyle Larson, as we noted during the race recap about an hour ago, claimed his 30th Cup Series win. He becomes the 30th driver in NASCAR Cup Series history to reach that mark. Third driver to turn the trick in a Hendrick Motorsports ride. Only Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson did it before him. There are a few active drivers who have 30 or more wins as well. Kyle Busch got 63, Denny Hamlin 54. Joey Logano's got 36. Then you got Brad Keselowski and Martin Truex Jr., who's now part-time, 34 wins. Next up on the all-time Cup Series wins list is Dale Jarrett. He's got 32 wins, so Kyle Larson needs 3 to pass him.
He'll get there.
By the end of the year?
By the end of the playoffs. By the end of the regular season.
By the playoffs,
By the end of the regular season.
34 wins, Brad Keselowski, Martin Truex Jr. Based on what he did last year, that's within reach.
That's going to be close.
Okay. That one you're saying is a little tougher.
It's going to be close.
Okay. Matt, you noted this last Saturday on the show. It was in a social media post, but it was taken down quickly, but not quickly enough before we saw it. Unfortunately, couldn't catch a screen capture of it. It appeared to show a Sunday ticket for Homestead Miami Speedway in 2026 that would equate with championship weekend. Apparently, there was a lot of talk in and around the Garage and Media Center last weekend at Homestead Miami that seemed to back up the thought that that ticket release, while quite premature, was also legitimate. Homestead Miami Speedway, of course, hosted the championship weekend for 20 years, but following the 2019 season, they moved it out of South Florida, and the season finale weekend has been held at Phoenix Raceway ever since, and it will be again this year. Driver and team owners do seem to be all for moving it back down to Homestead Miami. This includes Denny Hamlin, who said this, quote, "I certainly would like to see it play a bigger factor in our championship, whether it's in the playoffs or just part of the championship race or round." Now, this is not to say that the drivers don't like Phoenix.
A lot of them don't like Phoenix.
But the fans do. And the weather generally is good when you're talking early to mid-November in Phoenix.
Find me a few that do like Phoenix.
But the drivers love Homestead Miami.
Yeah.
It's been a while since that track has been repaved, too.
It hasn't been repaved since it's been reconfigured.
Which was?
2008?
Okay.
2007?
So we're going 20 years almost. We're going on 20 years since that track had a repave. What does that mean? Well, think about it. Before they repaved Atlanta, the drivers talked about loving Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Because it puts it back into their control.
Yes, because it wears, I mean, you and I were there. Producer John was too. We were able to go out onto the front stretch, lay our hands out onto the track, and I did exactly that. And I could feel how rough it was because you had a lot of wear and a lot of the gravel pieces that make up the old asphalt were showing through. And of course, what does that do? It makes the car slick, makes the driver have to really kind of wrestle the car. They like that as a general rule. Now, it's not to say that Atlanta's not nice the way that it does it now, and we like the racing the way that it is now in Atlanta.
Right.
But it's also getting that personality in because, as they said, the way that they configured that asphalt, it's aging a little bit faster than what we would normally expect.
It is.
And it's allowing the drivers to take a handle in this. When you talk about 20-year-old paving job, as the drivers would call it, that gives it personality.
Yeah, it does. But it got unveiled on one of the Dirty Mo Media platforms this past week, that it was set up for, there were several drivers that were going to be flying back down there for that specific announcement. But somewhere it got just like, not so quick. Something wasn't right, it lined up. Okay, what was it? It's simple. Hey, we're taking the date, shifting it back to Homestead.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, if you're going to do it. Pull the trigger. What are you waiting for?
There's no need in waiting.
You and I have talked about this. There are some, as you start to get into November, you can start to get into some questionable weather into the fall. But you and I have talked about some of the tracks that can host it. Phoenix, Homestead, Miami are two that are very obvious. I think probably Vegas could handle it easily. We think Texas could handle it easily. Would you do it at Atlanta?
If you do it at Atlanta, again,
used to host it, yeah.
You are legitimately opening the door to where Daytona or Talladega could host it.
Mm-hmm. And many people state that they really don't want to see the season finale at either Daytona or Talladega. We'd love it if it came to Talladega because we're there.
Is it any different that the regular season into Daytona? Nope.
Okay.
It is not.
So are you eliminating Atlanta from this then? Likely? Looking at it from NASCAR's angle, not from the fan angle.
You take the super speedway part out of it, you have to.
Okay. As it ages and seems to become a little bit less of that drafting track, and I get it, they're still using the rules of the Talladega Daytona, but it's driving less and less.
I don't think it doesn't matter if it ages or not. It's still going to be. It's
still going to have
that.
Rules.
Yes, it's still going to be that regardless, and you're still going to have to fight with it.
All right, so let's eliminate Atlanta then. So that eliminates Daytona and Talladega too.
Unfortunately.
You and I kind of already eliminated Darlington because that meant probably you'd have to take the race off of Labor Day weekend if we don't want to move the Southern 500. Right?
No, you don't move the Southern 500.
All right. So
but then again, here's the situation you would be in. You do not touch the Southern 500.
Yeah.
Leave it alone.
Okay.
You take the date off of the spring race, you move it to the championship weekend, but then again, you're going to end up with that distinct possibility, which I don't think it would happen, but it's a distinct possibility. You could have Darlington could book in the playoffs.
Yeah, begin and end.
Begin and end. That would put you back in a scenario like Pocono used to be. You would go to Pocono twice in 8 weeks.
Yeah, too close. So you might be hurting yourself by doing it. Okay, so we eliminate Darlington.
Bad to say, but true.
Yeah. The only way to put it at Charlotte is to take it off the Roval and to put it back on the oval.
I would take that Roval and launch that format into a catapult that would send you from here to Siberia.
So do you put Charlotte in the thought that it could host the championship round?
No.
Too far north?
Borderline.
Okay. So last year, granted it happened in September as opposed to November, but we went to the IndyCar championship race, season finale race in Nashville. Would you take it to Nashville Super Speedway?
Nashville would be on the list.
Okay. I mean, there's not a whole lot of tracks when you really stop and think about it, considering Auto Club is out of the question because, well, we can't figure out what to do construction-wise with it. There's not a whole lot of tracks they can go to.
No.
We'll see what happens.
Kansas would be borderline. It'd be borderline.
Kansas and Charlotte are kind of along that same line, and then we start going, along that same lines, presuming Rockingham sticks around. Would you put championship weekend? Would you put championship weekend at Rockingham?
That's borderline.
It's kind of like Charlotte, and that's kind of what I was figuring.
Even though they used to run championship right at the end of the year, it's borderline.
I know. In North Wilkesboro, I don't know whether you put it at a short track.
I would. What do you got to lose? What do you have to lose?
But North Wilkesboro is along that same line as Rockingham and Charlotte. Becomes borderline at that point in time.
Bristol would be too.
Yep. Again, we're somewhat limited in our abilities here. I don't know. They're going to have to make a decision. They're going to have to make it quick. When we come back, Richard Childress Racing has made a decision when it comes to taking the 33 out of the garage. They're going to have a couple of people messing with that. And Legacy MC has a bit of a sponsor situation that they got to deal with. Because one of their sponsors actually, split. Huh? Details next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Two tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. Steve West, Matt Nicholson. Producer John is on CRN Live on YouTube via chat. Say hello to him there if you have the ability. We appreciate you checking us out, be it on radio or on CRN Live on YouTube. And if you are on CRN Live on YouTube and you haven't, we do ask that you please subscribe. It's very simple and it's free. Richard Childress Racing sooner or later has to do something with their Xfinity Series guys, and it appears that they're preparing for this being sooner rather than later. Promoting Austin Hill, for example, to the Cup Series. Towards that end, the team announced they're going to run Hill in a slate of Cup Series races this year, 5 in all. The first is going to be Throwback Weekend, which is coming up quick, like next weekend, April 6th, Darlington. Following that, Hill will climb into the team's third car, the number 33, with sponsorship from his longtime partner, United Rentals, at Chicago on July 6th. August 23rd at Daytona. Remember, that's the Cup Series regular season finale. Then he's going to be at Bristol September the 13th. He'll be at Talladega in the round of 8 on October the 19th. Is this a nice cross-section? I mean, it's Daytona and Talladega. This is them kind of looking for extra help, isn't it?
Pretty much. Pretty much.
But at the same time, if you're going to put him in 5 races this year, you got to be thinking about moving him up to Cup here real soon, because you don't do that unless you're saying, hey, listen, we've got plans for you, right?
Yeah, there's something there because his ex-crew chief, Andy Streets, is over that car.
Okay.
So
And then you got this. You got his teammate in the Xfinity Series, Jesse Love, also going to get his chance to show if he can adjust to the Cup Series, because there is an adjustment to go from the Xfinity Series to the Gen 7 Cup car. Love will, with sponsorship from a group called C4 Ultimate Energy, drive the same number 33 Chevrolet at Bristol in 2 weeks. Love has an impressive resume so far. He's got 5 poles and a win in his Sunoco Rookie of the Year season of 2024. On top of that, he's the 2020 ARCA Menards East Series title winner, and he won the ARCA Menards Series championship in 2023. You want to talk about being thrown into the fire, though. You're being thrown in at Bristol.
Yeah. That's going to be a humdinger for him.
Yeah, it is. Here, let's throw you into the deep end, see if you can swim. Okay.
Yeah.
This story blew me away, I have to admit. Legacy MC partner Dollar Tree announced this week they've sold off their sister organization, Family Dollar. Okay. From here, it gets worse. Dollar Tree bought out the Family Dollar brand about a decade ago. In 2014, Dollar Tree bought Family Dollar for $8.5 billion. Let that sink in for a moment. $8.5 billion to get a hold of the Family Dollar brand. This week, they have agreed to sell it off to private equity groups Brigade Capital Management and McCallum Capital Management for a reported $1 billion. Family Dollar lost $7.5 billion in value in 10 years? Smack. Family Dollar has about 8,000 stores around the country at this time, but they've been going through a restructuring. They've closed about 900 or so of those stores in the past year. Whether or not this will affect the sponsorship of Legacy MC is not known, because nobody from either Dollar Tree or Family Dollar has talked about it. Right now, Dollar Tree still shows up as a primary sponsor for Legacy MC on both the 42 and the 43 car, mostly the 42. We'll see. But man, you want to talk about taking a bath on that investment. They took a massive bath. Good luck to them. And then there's Beard Motorsports. They missed out on getting into the Daytona 500, but they're going to continue on their 2025 plans to enter all the Super Speedway rules races. They've announced that for Talladega, which is next up, they're going to have Anthony Fast Pasta Alfredo in the number 62 sponsorship coming from Fortified Building Solutions. That brings us to Indycar. And Indycar officials are investigating a couple of things. First up, that fledgling hybrid system that came into effect full-time this year, they had a number of teams that were forced to replace the energy recovery system attached to the hybrid because of some internal wiring issues. And other drivers noted that the ERS system had an overheating problem because, well, temperatures were a bit high out there in Southern California at Thermal Club. There's a reason why it's called thermal, I guess. Alexander Rossi, driving the number 20 for Ed Carpenter Racing, was the first one to note a problem with the system, which prompted his team to have to replace the system entirely. And once he noted it and the team noted it, other teams began to report the same or similar issues with their hybrid ERS system. And after looking at Rossi's system after Friday's initial practice, IndyCar released a technical bulletin to the teams as they arrived to the paddock Saturday, told each team to closely inspect the wiring harness. They said it could become separated from the connections, which led to more changes from other teams. You want to know what the immediate fix was? Zip ties.
Work wonders.
High tech. It appeared that most of the wiring harness connection problems were affecting the Chevrolet-powered teams, but Honda said that a couple of their racers that they powered also had some similar kind of problems. And in addition to that, during the race, with air temperatures being in the 90-degree range and temperatures on the track above that, teams started to note that the ERS system was beginning to overheat, which would cause it to malfunction. Pato O'Ward, for example, said he could only use the added horsepower of the ERS system for the first half of the race last Sunday at Thermal Club. Teammate Christian Lundgaard echoed O'Ward, and the A.J. Foyt Racing entry of Santino Ferrucci said, yep, I can concur with all of that as well. The culprit there was determined to be airflow blockers that the teams can use. In other words, this blocks off airflow into the radiators that keep the ERS system cool, and because it overheated, it went into what they call limp mode. If you've ever had your car or your truck go into limp mode. You know exactly what I'm talking about. A sincere lack of power. Why are we I mean, I get it. You get an aero situation, but if you know that the air temperature is 90 degrees, why are you blocking off the radiators to something like that? You block it off if you're doing like 60.
Yeah.
Not when it's 90.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ugh. Remember us talking about how Dallara is working on the new chassis that's supposed to come in either 2027 or 2028, and that the team saw, and the owners as well, saw some initial drawings and they were underwhelmed. Apparently, IndyCar officials have listened and said, you know what? Let's send this to an outside source. See what we can do. Dallara, again, still in the middle of that process of updating the old DW12 chassis, still on track for coming to fruition either 2027 or 2028. We're still not sure which. They haven't announced. But again, the underwhelming first looks, the collective yawn that was met by the drivers and the current owners, it caused IndyCar to turn to former race car designer and engineer Tino Belli. Tino Belli is pretty familiar with IndyCar. He's going to come in, take a look at it, see if he can deliver the kind of punch that the current drivers and the owners were hoping for. Belli joined IndyCar back in 2014. Was the key designer behind the Universal Aero kit that came into use in 2018, and before that, going all the way back to the 1980s, he's been working on engineering and designing sports cars, IndyCar, and F1 chassis. Was doing that well into the 1990s. So Tino's going to get his chance to take a look at this and see if there is anything he can do to punch it up. You and I have already talked about this. In that aero is one of the things that, yeah, you can mess with when it comes to IndyCar. And we've already talked about this, and yeah, there's controversy surrounding it. But let's just call it, of the non-straight line racers, IndyCar is the fastest of them all.
Yeah.
Beats out Formula One well above and beyond IMSA or NASCAR. Okay? You start playing around with this aero using this chassis that they're talking about, and they continue to talk about adding more and more power. I mean, at one point in time, they were talking about adding enough power to where it would rival Formula One.
Yeah.
I mean, at what point in time are we starting to talk about 240 to 250 in qualifying at the Indy 500?
It's not far.
It can't be that far.
It's not far.
Cannot be. It'd be interesting to see how this actually turns out. I can't wait to see some drawings of this thing. They're still not releasing them, by the way.
Yeah.
So from one technical problem and then dealing with the chassis to another major problem. If last Sunday you were trying to watch, and I use that term very, very pointedly. If you were trying to watch the IndyCar race at Thermal Club last Sunday, you saw that in the middle of the race, Fox had to cut to commercials and then shift coverage of the Cup Series race at Homestead Miami Speedway, and probably you were left with a question of why? Well, here's the details. After the leaders hit the line to begin lap number 31, whether you were listening on the radio on IRN, the IndyCar radio network, or on the TV broadcast for Fox, they both went down. Viewers, listeners, didn't matter. Whether you're in the U.S., around the world, did not matter. All of this was initially chalked up to that extreme heat. Remember, I was talking about it. 90-degree day at Thermal Club when the race started. Equipment, broadcast equipment, just like race equipment, can get hot. IndyCar officials later detailed that it was due to a circuit breaker failing. Caused a blackout that lasted from lap 31 to about lap 42. Oops. On top of that, what have we been saying? And we proved it by showing you the rundown of all live race coverage from the year 2024. NASCAR, specifically the Cup Series, is the king of motorsports in the United States of America. How can we prove it? Here's the deal. On top of the technical problems that Fox experienced at Thermal Club, they got a second whammy, news that their viewership from the season opener at St. Petersburg was down significantly at Thermal Club. First race of the year at St. Petersburg, 1.417 million viewers. It's a good number. It was up significantly over last year's season opener from NBC. The highest point in time that they could figure from Thermal Club, the total number of viewers, 704,000. That's a 50.3% drop from race to race. Now, obviously, technical trouble that killed the feed for about 20 minutes could have been part of the problem. Again, caused Fox to switch from IndyCar to Cup Series coverage while they tracked it down. There's also this, I'll get it. We talked about it during the race recap at the beginning of the show. They started at the exact same time as the Cup Series race at Homestead, Miami. And not only were they battling Homestead, Miami, you got the NCAA tournament going on. But I'm sorry. If you're an IndyCar fan, you seek this out.
Yeah.
And 704,000 people, that is down from the average of an IndyCar race on NBC last year, which was about 1 to 1.1 million people. Average for 17 races.
Yeah.
Not including the Indy 500.
Yep.
So that's down significantly from that. And as I remember looking, and I can't remember the exact number, but I want to say that the number for the Cup Series on Fox Sports 1, mind you, was at about 2.5 million people.
Something like that, yeah. I don't know.
Again, I'm saying this, and I'll say it again. Congratulations to IndyCar for getting this great deal from Fox to have all your races put on the Fox network. On NASCAR, I'm feeling just totally ignored. Anyway, this was also below what NBC experienced at the Thermal Club race last year. It came in at just over 788,000 people. That had also been a major drop from St. Petersburg last year. 2024 NBC telecast of that race at Thermal Club had no NASCAR competition either, and it was still at 788,000. Something to do with Thermal Club?
It's... I don't know. It's hard to say if it's the track or what, because it's kind of hard to put on a good competitive race at a private racetrack.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even as much as they like it, yeah, doing spring practice there is one thing. Putting on an actual race there is something else.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, we'll see if they can figure out the problems. When we come back, no Xfinity Series news to talk about this week. We do have some Formula E stuff. We got some Craftsman Truck Series racing news to talk about. We got a Fantasy League update that we're going to be dealing with in the next segment of the show. And a pretty interesting move from the broadcast world when it comes to networks that cover racing. Talk about that massive switch coming up here. All that before the end of this show. But we got to take this break first.
We will be right back with more on the championship.
You already know Sylacauga Marine and ATV is the area's #1 choice for Tracker, Sun Tracker, and Regency pontoons.
Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. Final segment of this weekend's show and Truck Series news, where Cook Racing Technologies is not really a team that you may be overly familiar with. They've just announced the signing of a Patrick Staropoli to a part-time schedule that will see him race for the team in both the ARCA Menard Series and Craftsman Truck Series through the rest of this season. Staropoli is, by trade, a retina surgeon in Houston, Texas. Okay. He ran last night in Martinsville in the team's number 84 Chevrolet Silverado with sponsorship from a eye injection that just makes me shudder, and I don't want to try and mispronounce the name, so I'm not gonna. Staropoli is now 35. He is not a racing novice. He actually won the 2013 Pikes Peak Stock Car Dream Challenge, used that to gain a seat with Bill McAnally Racing in the 2014 season with the ARCA West Series, alongside a guy by the name of Chase Briscoe. After that, he went back to regional stock car racing before he got a chance with Venturini Motorsports earlier this season at Phoenix, where he qualified 12th and finished 8th. Now, Cook Racing Technologies, or CRT, is a title-winning team in the ARCA competition. This year, they added a part-time slate in the Craftsman Truck Series. The team, started by Bruce Cook, has worked with several NASCAR teams as a mechanic and a crew chief, including Roush Fenway Racing, Robert Yates Racing, Junior Motorsports, Kevin Harvick Incorporated, and others. It'll be interesting to see how this team progresses. I don't think Staropoli's the long-term answer.
No, this is just a part-time deal.
Yeah, and let's face it, he was able to take his regular job as a retina surgeon and grab one of those companies that he works with on a regular basis and got a sponsorship for it.
Yeah.
All right. Good for him, though. Laborers International Union of North America, otherwise known as LIUNA. You see them in Truck Series. They've come on board. They're now the title sponsor of the inaugural NASCAR weekend at Lime Rock Park in Connecticut. NASCAR's Craftsman Truck Series and the ARCA Menard Series are headed to the New England Road Course later on this summer. It's not NASCAR's first ever trip there. The old Busch North Series raced at the course from 1993 through 2011. But for anything from ARCA on up, this will be the first time at Lime Rock Park. This ought to be an interesting track to check out and see how the Truck Series does on it. Because this is not the biggest of courses, as I remember.
It's not really a technical course. It's pretty wide open.
Okay. It'll be fun to watch. Matt, you're excluded from this, and I'll tell you why. But if you've ever thought to yourself you could be a real race car driver, Parker Kligerman, NASCAR driver and broadcaster, might have a challenge for you. If you have zero experience behind the wheel of a racer, Kligerman says he's putting up some of his own money, $5,000 specifically, to say you likely aren't as good as your ego says. But he adds that this challenge just might be able to find a diamond in the rough, too. Posted on his personal social media, quote, "Do you think you could be a race car driver? So many of you on the internet often tell me that you think you can be, so I wondered if there was any way to try to prove it. I'm putting $5,000 of my own money on the line if people can beat me. There are 3 aspects to this test. Using the new Lucid AR Grand Touring electric vehicle, EV. Testing the contestant's ability to accelerate and stop within a defined box. Second is testing cornering. Third is to test the driver's car control going through 2 back-to-back turns, each of them challenged, not only judged on how smooth the driver is, but against the clock. The first challenge has already taken place. It featured 3 people, one of them being Parker's own brother, Bard Kligerman. As it turns out, Bard actually bested his brother in all 3 aspects. Despite his own lack of racing experience, he came out $3,500 richer. So the jackpots jumped up. Kligerman's promising future challenges to come. If you'd like to find out more, log on to Twix. It's my name for Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it now. And just go to @PKligerman and you can find out more. I tried to look for the link. It got messed up. Wasn't even going to mess with it anymore. So I'm just telling you where you can go. You can check it out. Formula E news. Tag Heuer Porsche's Pascal Wehrlein going to get his first chance to race in the prestigious 24 Hours Le Mans this season. He's joined in with the Penske Porsche Motorsports team. Wehrlein has been a tester for Porsche's World Endurance Challenge division for a while now, so he's familiar with the 963 entry that the team's going to use. And he raced at the 24 Hours of Daytona earlier this year, so he's got a little bit of sports car experience under his belt. Fairline said of this opportunity, quote, competing for Porsche Penske Motorsport at Le Mans is a dream come true. I'm looking forward to this major challenge because unlike in Formula E, I have to share everything in the Porsche 963 that I would normally tailor specifically to myself. How much of a challenge is that, do you think? I mean, you haven't really had to mess with that much, but how much of a major challenge is that?
It's hard to say because you're so used to battery power. Now your actual horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to say.
Okay. And these cars are generally, I mean, you can somewhat tailor a car that only a single driver is going to run to their driving style. In this case, you got 3 drivers at least, maybe 4.
Yeah.
In this case, you're kind of trying to set it up really more for the track than you are for the driver, aren't you?
Right. Yep.
So you just got to get used to how the car reacts on the track.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You have to.
We'll see. This news just came down. Did not have it beforehand. Otherwise, I would have included it back in the NHRA news. But Adam Stern from Sports Business Daily says this. Turns out this is the last year of the NHRA deal with Fox. And there is an exclusive negotiating window with Fox Sports in July. But as it turns out, Adam Stern is reporting that if an extension is not reached, it is believed that other media companies will go after the television rights for the NHRA, not the least of which would be the CW.
Okay. All you can say is okay.
CW's got the rights to the Xfinity series. They run on Saturdays.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they have a Sunday race. I think there's one Sunday race that is not a Cup Series race. No, the Truck Series isn't going to run on Easter because the one Cup Series weekend.
Truck Series is running on Easter.
Is it on
Easter? But they're running
Day?
on Friday.
They're running on Easter weekend, but they're not running on Sunday.
No, they're running Saturday.
Okay. So the only opportunity for the Xfinity series that would ever run on a Sunday would be if the Cup Series was off.
Yeah.
So that's not happening this year. We know that. CW does not have any rights to any pro league, Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, or the NFL. So that frees up Sundays. This technically could be a big boon to the NHRA if Fox doesn't re-up. Because they could then potentially get live coverage every single event. I don't know as the CW has any competition on a Sunday afternoon.
No, because all the races are either on Friday or Saturday this year.
Well, this will be something to watch. We'll keep an eye on it. See what happens. Speaking of television, for fans of MAV TV, this could be good, this could be bad. It all depends on how you look at it. Racer.com and Racer Magazine have announced that they have bought the network and they're set to rename it. It's going to become the Racer Network. Racer chairman and chairman of the board, Chris Dyson, said, quote, "We have been partners for many years, and over time, the parties realized that this move just made complete sense." CJ Oliveris, who's the current president of MAV TV, is going to continue as the president in the new Racer Network. He said this, quote, "This is an exciting day for motorsports media. We are deeply grateful to Lucas family and Lucas Oil Products whose support and vision shaped MAV TV into the success it is today. Now, under the Racer banner, we will redefine the way that content is for motorsports delivered and experienced and establish the largest, most comprehensive motorsports media platform in North America." Not exactly sure how. Guess we'll have to wait and see. Executives said the brand change to Racer Network will go into effect as soon as possible, maybe already done. But any changes in the programming is going to be implemented over the next few months to ensure a smooth change to what Racer's priorities are, wanting to ensure as small a disruption for the viewers as possible. Now, MAV TV has run a lot of those 30-minute shows like Stacey David's Gears and Truck U and Detroit Muscle and stuff like that. And the more I'm hearing of that, now Stacey David's Gears, I haven't heard anything from that, but some of those other shows like that,
yeah,
I've heard they're kind of going away. So if you're big into those kind of shows that show you how they're redoing engines or putting more power under the hood or whatever it is, you might get less of that under this.
Right.
What will come out of it? Not sure yet.
Hard to say.
I mean, I'll say this right now. Racer.com is one of those places that I do go and I get a lot of news from. Does this mean we could get more current content?
Possibly.
Does that mean there's a chance for CRN to go onto Racer TV?
Maybe.
I'm just throwing stuff out there, sticking it up against the wall. If anybody's from Racers listening, we're available. Call us. We've got a website, crnradio.us. You can figure out the way to contact us through there. We'd love to talk to you. Am I stepping above my boundaries here? What the... All right, so there you go. That's the rundown here. Let's wrap it up here and let's talk about this. What's the latest in the fantasy world here? Because I'm doing my level best to give this away. I know it.
Well,
I looked at my performance from last weekend and it wasn't great.
Well, the results from Homestead, the gap between the win at Homestead was 1 point. Junebug won the race with 219. I was in second with 218.
Okay.
You were in third with 189.
Like I said, I'm doing my level best to give this away.
Old Boom Slick was 179 in fourth. Staceman fifth. Chase B in sixth. Fire Chef in seventh.
All right. And there's still time to join this. I mean, this is free. We're doing it for fun. Feel free to join in, and we'll look at it week by week. You're behind an 8 ball if you start now, but at the same time, look at it week by week because that's how we're going to look at it.
Yeah.
So you'll get credit if you win the week. You get the credit. And who knows? If I continue to try and give this away like I have been, you might catch me.
Yep. So overall standings, Junebug leads with 1030. You're second at 1008. Boom Slick is 976 in third. I'm in fourth at 883. Fire Chef is fifth at 811. Chase B is sixth at 796. Staceman is seventh at 779.
All right. Still time to get in. Go to NASCAR.com. Go to NASCAR Live. What's the league name if they're looking for it?
CRN Fantasy Live 2025. And next week is Throwback Week. And I'm ready to tee off on some of these throwbacks.
Yeah. I'm just going to say this right now because I saw it.
This Cup Series, I'm going to say right off the bat, Cup Series is dropping the godforsaken ball this year.
They are.
With the exception of 2 that I've seen, they are bombing it. But the Xfinity Series is hitting grand slams out of the park.
Yeah. Legacy MC, I'm going to call you out right here. You have the overall basic design. In other words, just kind of the form of how you're, putting the flare on there and everything. You got that right. The colors are massively wrong on that 42 car.
They done the color scheme match.
To match their current sponsor.
Tree.
I get that. But if you're going to do a throwback, you got to do more than just the basic, flare design.
It would be hard to do blue and stuff with Dollar Tree. But
get the permission, for the love. Get the permission from Dollar Tree to do it. Good night almighty.
Up until I seen the 43 car, the 5 and the 42 for Cup were 1-2 with me.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and say it now. 43 right now is ranked number 1 for me at Cup.
I get it.
But Xfinity, I'm not going to say it yet because this is time for the annual reveal.
Yeah.
Which will probably consist of whatever the recording is done for Cross Flags. That's probably what it'll consist of with the photos to back it up. I'm going to say it right now. There is a by far run away with the best Xfinity throwback scheme. And my opinion, the absolute clear-cut run away, no questions asked for best in show.
We're probably still going to get a couple of reveals. There was a thought of doing this during Cross Flags, but we do that on a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
I think we need to do it live.
And I think
to
we
give it a few
too.
extra days.
Yeah, because we have seen in the past where there have been reveals on Thursday or Friday beforehand.
Yep.
So we want to wait until the very last minute. So yeah, there had been some thought about doing that during Cross Flags this year, doing that ranking that we do every year of the throwbacks. I can't pull that trigger. I just can't. We're gonna go ahead and do it next week on the show. And,
Live.
either way, John has to be prepared because that means a lot of pictures are going to be coming because Matt will have his top 3 from the Truck Series. I'll have my top 3 from the Truck Series.
I don't think's running.
Oh, that's right, too.
I don't think trucks are
All right.
running.
So your life just got a little easier, John. We'll only have to do the Xfinity Series. We'll do top 3 Xfinity, top 3 Cup, and best overall, regardless of which series that it's in. And again,
Yeah, trucks are not running.
there's a couple of really good-looking Cup Series cars, but, man, the Xfinity Series is knocking it out of the park.
I'm going to call a team out.
for it.
Alpha Prime, you are absolutely hitting grand slam after grand slam after grand slam after grand slam with these throwbacks.
Yeah. We can't wait to bring these to you next weekend. We will indeed do that next week amongst all the other stuff that we're going to do. Yes, we will have a cross flags. Don't worry about it. There's always something that we need to talk about when it comes to doing that. So that's going to happen. Whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday, I don't know. We did it early this week. Worked out pretty well. I liked it.
Yeah.
We'll see. Either way, we're going to have that. And, of course, we'll be back for Throwback Weekend right here on the big show next weekend as well. Thank you very much for joining us. Again, if you happen to be joining us on CRN Live on YouTube and you haven't yet, please subscribe down below. We appreciate it very, very much. I know that it will help us out, and we just thank you. And, hey, it's free. Doesn't cost you anything. It's pretty cool stuff. And thank you for joining us on 95.1 The Mountain. If you're listening to us on the radio as well, y'all have a great week. Be careful out there. Good luck with the pollen. Matt and I are struggling with it. We know that for sure. Hope you are having a great one. Chi-Town Mark, all the best to you, man. We know you're back in the hospital. We're praying for you. Get better soon. We need you back at the track, brother. All right, we'll talk to you next Saturday. And, of course, don't forget, cross flags in the middle of the week. Have a great one. Enjoy the racing, too, would you?
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.